Hey everyone, and welcome back to Blackthornprod. So you've probably already heard about Brackeys, but in case you haven't, it's an awesome game dev YouTube channel filled to the brim with tutorials on Unity, pixel art, programming, and more. This channel and the people behind it really helped me get into game dev roughly 2 years ago. So you can imagine my joy when I received a message from this cool dude asking whether I would be interested in collaborating with him and the rest of the Brackeys team on a project. I replied definitely yes. Soon after, I discovered that Brackeys was opening up a cool game dev merch store called Line of Code. My job would be to come up with interesting, neat designs for t-shirts. I couldn't just come up with anything, it had to be somehow game dev related. I loved the idea and couldn't wait to get started. And so beginning January of this year, I began sketching out some designs I thought would be interesting in preparation of our first Discord meeting. At the time, there were already two designs, the simple Brackeys logo t-shirt and a cool Game Jam t-shirt. So here's the process I went through to create new designs for more Line of Codes t-shirts. First of all came the idea stage. What concepts would be fun to create, cool to wear, and of course somehow game dev related. To gain inspiration and ideas, I first of all asked friends and family what they thought would be cool, questioning them on designs they would like to have printed on a t-shirt. But I especially asked myself these questions because other than my brother Liam, my family aren't game developers and I am. And as the website reads, Line of Code merch is made by developers for developers. So I really thought back on my many game dev experiences, both good and bad, and soon loads of interesting ideas came to mind. I've always been fascinated by the difficulty of finishing projects, for example. There was a time in my life where I seemed incapable of finishing what I started, and I know that almost every game developer that walks this planet has left behind a trail of abandoned games too. That's a struggle I wanted to illustrate with a cool t-shirt design somehow. So I wrote the idea down in Evernote, as well as a couple more like the tutorial purgatory, which would be some epic t-shirt for all those stuck watching hours and hours of tutorials without really being able to create something on their own. I've been there too. When I was 15, so 3 years ago, I spent a year watching how to make a game like courses, hundreds of videos on game art and animation, but when left to my own devices, my mind would go a bit blank, eyelids heavy, and I would just end up browsing the web for more tutorials. So sure, making t-shirts out of common game dev struggles would be interesting, but making games isn't all negative obviously, so I also wanted to make designs about the wonders of bringing worlds to life, the joy of finishing a piece of interactive art and sharing it with the world, and the diversity of games and how this incredible medium embodies so many art forms from drawing and animation to music and storytelling. So yeah, coming up with ideas wasn't very difficult. I just thought back on my many game dev experiences. The next challenge was how to translate these ideas into cool looking designs. Now I've made tons and tons of small games and made the arts for all of them, filled many sketchbooks with doodles and Inktober drawings, drew hundreds of characters using Photoshop, but making these designs was very different and in many ways more challenging. First of all, the pressure. The Brackeys team, people whom I really respected for their quality work, would be seeing these designs. I obviously wanted to make something really cool, plus thousands of people would also look at these t-shirts, perhaps even buy and wear them. I think that pressure though had a really good effect on me. It kind of felt like a game jam pressure. It was an exciting pressure which really fuels me. I drew faster, didn't procrastinate, and came up with more and more ideas as I drew, and I really enjoyed every minute I worked on this project. So as you know, the first step is sketching. I would take one of my ideas, like the tutorial purgatory one for example, and draw lots of quick visual ideas to get my creative juices flowing, and flush away from my system bad or boring ideas. Then when I had something that looked cool and illustrated well my idea and story, I would clean up the outline and finally add colors. And then I would go on a website like Custom Ink to see how my design would look on a t-shirt, and make a few tweaks if necessary. So a few days before our first meeting, I'd come up with designs for my best ideas, which included the tutorial Purgatory, the abandoned projects, a character that is bringing his imagination to life, as well as this crude sketch for a last minute idea I had, a game engine heart. And I had a few other ideas and sketches, but I won't show them here because we might very well use those in the future. When we had our first meeting on Friday, the Brackeys team showered my work with praise, which felt awesome. And then we talked at length about ways to improve these designs. Everyone loved the ideas, but there was still work to be done. Some designs needed to be polished or remade, while for others I proposed to make several more variations to pick and choose from. The whole Brackeys team were really cool, nice people, making the whole meeting a really great experience. So for 2 days, encouraged and energized like crazy by the kind words of Asbjorn, Andreas and Thea, I made dozens of new designs based on all that we had talked about. I wanted to make several more drawings for each one of my ideas, partly to feel like I was giving this project my all and that no idea would be left in some dark corner in my head, but also because I was having such a fun time, and I also wanted the Brackeys team to have lots of choices and have fun picking and choosing their favourites. After our second meeting, we knew which designs we would run with and end up turning into t-shirts. It was really exciting. What came next though was a little less fun. A lot of back and forth making small tweaks to each design, adding little details here or removing tiny details there, changing a colour ever so slightly and struggling to make each design look good on both a black and white t-shirts. But we were nearing the finish line at this point, and I was super excited to see my designs on real people, including myself. So yeah, out of the tons and tons of designs I created, 4 were picked, endlessly tweaked, and finally sent to Brackeys via Dropbox, so they could print them out on black, white, grey and dark blue t-shirts, take photos and add them to their awesome line of code website, ready to be bought and worn. When they revealed these designs on their video 2 weeks ago, it was so cool. These random ideas and crude sketches were now a real, tangible thing. So yeah, I had a great time and learned a ton working on this project. And of course, I really look forward to future collaborations with the Brackeys team. With that said, thanks so much for watching. Here's an extra thank you and shout out to my amazing patrons for their financial support. Okay, stay tuned. Cheers.